Welcome to owGood, Practical Principles for Powerful People Passionate About Purpose. Hello, family. This is Ashley, and you are watching owGood. Today is the last installment in the owGood series. I want to thank you for rocking with me in this series. We have a lot of new viewers. I think it just speaks to the fact that a lot of us are on the same page right now. Our future is in God's hands. Let's just start there. Our future is in God's hands. And He has given us so much to work with. He has given us breath. He has given us our minds. He has given us tools, resources, different things that we can tap into in order to live well here on this earth. I truly do not believe that the only reward for a believer is found after death, right? I would believe that there's so much gold in your everyday life. And really this series is about uncovering that gold, what you have to work with, what do you have to give, and I really hope that you have gotten something out of it. Today, we are going into financial literacy. Now, October is financial literacy, financial planning month, National Financial Planning Month here in the United States. And we are going to continue on the finance track just in a different way. But anywho, I have been in the book of Mark. Today we're going to go over Mark chapter 8, and we're going to talk about how it pertains to financial literacy and personal growth and development as a whole. You guys notice that owGood has a new date and time. There's a lot of things going on here, and I like to mind the business that pays me, and I will share with you guys at the right time. But for now, I just want to thank you for being flexible, and I think in that journey to continuous improvement, flexibility is so pertinent. Okay, but we're going to read a big chunk of Mark chapter 8, and then we're going to go into the lessons for it. Okay, and here you can thank my husband for the improved aesthetic appearance because he just insists. Okay, so now Jesus, you guys, if you've ever been to church, you know Jesus fed 5,000 people with a little boy's lunch, right? This is after this. You might not know that he fed another 4,000 people, men and maybe more, including women and children. But he is going on this, like, him and his disciples, they're going from town to town. They're doing all these different things. And he's really just kind of dealing with the backlash of his influence, the growth of his influence and his power. Okay. So he had just got done preaching to these folks for 3 days in the beginning of Mark chapter 8. And Jesus had already fed 5,000 people. He's telling them, we're about to feed these 4,000 people as well. And the disciples are like, where are we going to get the bread? Jesus is like, everybody sit down. He tells 4,000 people to sit down. And then he starts feeding those people. Okay. When they were done, they had 7 baskets full left. Now I'm starting with verse let's see. So I'm going to start with verse 9. He says, about that time, about 4,000 were present. This is where he fed. After he had sent them away, he got into the boat with his disciples, and they went to the region of Dalmanutha. The Pharisees came and began to question Jesus because, think about it, 4,000 people just had a fish sandwich free from Jesus. They were talking about it, right? So the Pharisees heard about it. They went to go see where he is, and they began to question him, to test him. They asked him for a sign from heaven. They wanted another miracle, y'all. There's a butterfly right there. They wanted another miracle. About 4,000 were present. Okay, he had sent them away. The Pharisees wanted another miracle. Verse 12, he sighed deeply and said, why does this generation ask for a sign? Truly, I tell you, no sign will be given to it. Then he left and got back into the boat and crossed to the other side. Okay, so the yeast of the Pharisees and Herod. And verse 14, it reads as thus. The disciples had forgotten to bring bread except for one loaf they had with them in the boat. They had 7 baskets full, but they had forgotten it. Be careful, Jesus warned them. Watch out for the yeast of the Pharisees and that of Herod. They discussed with one another and said, it is because we have no bread. I wrote in my notes, leaders be like, Lord, y'all wearing me out. Aware of their discussion, Jesus asked them, what are you talking about having no bread? Do you still not see or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Do you have eyes that fail to see and ears that fail to hear? Don't you remember when I broke the 5 loaves of bread for the 5,000 people? How many baskets did you pick up? 12, they replied. And when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many basketfuls of pieces did you pick up? They answered, 7. He said to them, do you still not understand? This is on the way to Bethsaida, okay? And he's having this conversation. Jesus is having a long day, okay? But he gets there, and some more people had heard about the fish sandwich and had heard that he knew how to do miracles. So they brought their blind friend to him. Some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. Now, Jesus already said, I'm not doing no more miracles for y'all, but this guy was right in front of him. So he led him outside of the village. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. He said, look, dude, I know I'm the living water, but right now all I have is this spit for you. I'm going to spit in your eye. What do you see? Do you see anything? Verse 24 says, he looked up and said, I see people. They look like trees walking around. Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were open, his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. That clarity. Jesus sent him home saying, don't even go into the village. Let's get into this. Okay, so let's talk about it. So let's talk about how that passage that we just read in Mark chapter 8 applies to this concept of financial literacy. Jesus did a lot in one day. He fed 4,000 people. He got into some sort of like very public back and forth with the Pharisees that day. And then when he finally reached his destination, somebody needed help. He decided not to help that person in front of everyone else, to do it privately. And that person was not immediately healed, but after he exchanged some words with Jesus, he was finally healed and able to see clearly. What does that have to do with financial literacy? Let's get into it. Oh, before we start, I just want to remind you that there is a resource packet available for you for free, and go ahead and get it now while it's free. It's at resources.wiseandthriving.com. It's a packet of different tools that you can use to manage your finances. It includes a monthly budget planner, a life insurance need calculator, a debt manager, a net worth worksheet, a smart financial goal setting worksheet, and there's more than that. It's a 12-page workbook completely free to you at that link. It will also subscribe you to the Wise and Thriving newsletter for an update from me every Sunday, and I will not spam you or give your information away. All right, guys. So in Mark 8, what is Jesus trying to teach us? I want to make a note that Jesus says a lot of things to teach us, but so much of what is learned from Jesus is learned in his actions, how he goes about doing things. Like you can learn so much from his parables, but he even told us that his parables were for the other, like the outsiders who needed more like a generalized way of understanding. But for us, his disciples, we have to have a understanding of his ways, why he did things in the way that he does, right? So I believe that passage, first of all, is telling us to stay focused. Why do I say that? So they had gone and fed 4,000 people. They made a huge impact in a short amount of time, and everybody was talking about it. Everybody said Jesus was giving out fish sandwiches. At this point, at least 9,000 people from the 5,000 and 4,000 were like, oh my gosh, y'all need to find this man. He is giving out fish sandwiches for free, and they're delicious. And then he teaches, and he's so insightful. And so his 12 disciples are like, yes, we're with Jesus. and we're going to go with him everywhere that he goes, right? So Jesus made sure that his disciples had enough food at the end of that whole thing. The first time they had 12 baskets, the second time they had 7 baskets. But hear me out. Whenever they had ran into the Pharisees distracted them because they were going back and forth with Jesus, asking for a sign. The Pharisees knew exactly what they were doing. Hear me out. The distraction was abandon our bread, abandon our sustenance to fight this battle on behalf of the of what we believe in. And while that sounds very noble, when they got in the boat to go to Dalmanutha, they didn't have any bread. They had 1 loaf of bread left. Why? Because they got caught up. They got caught up in going back and forth with people who were just trying to hinder them in the first place, right? So on our journey to becoming better, on our journey to improving our finances, we have to stay focused. The more you grow in influence and power, the more people are going to scrutinize every single thing you do, period. Okay, that comes from my personal testimony. That comes from years of working in public relations. People are going to scrutinize you more and more. That's actually a good thing, especially if you're an authentic person. You understand? But it also comes with a lot of, opportunities for distraction. So we have to learn in that state. That's why Jesus got frustrated with them. And then they're telling him he doesn't have any bread. He's like, I know I left bread for you. I know, we made sure that you had bread left over. So at what point did you leave the bread behind? Well, it was when they were going back and forth with the Pharisees. You already know they were talking to Jesus, but in the background, they're trying to make sure. Jesus said, beware of the yeast of Herod and the yeast of the Pharisees. He's talking about self-righteousness. He's talking about, the corruption of absolute power. He's talking about, really getting off course. Like when the Bible says things like whatever is true, noble, whatever is worthy of praise, it's not just so we can just be like these, what is the word? Clueless people, these unrealistic people. No, it's like you need to keep your mind on the main things. You know what I'm saying? Because when you get so distracted, it takes you off course from where you personally need to be. What God really needs in this season is people in their positions, people who are where he needs them to be when he needs them to be there. Okay? Now, you're going to be honest. Okay, I want to get into this because this story has touched me from the time I was a child. He goes to talk to this blind man. He takes him outside. First of all, the man, I know he heard him spit. And if it was me, I would be like, wait a minute, what's going on? He go ahead and let Jesus spit in his eye because he trusted who Jesus was. Jesus touched his eyes, and you understand Jesus had a long day. I don't know why it didn't work the first time. But he says, I see men walking as trees. And I just ruminated on that. And I finally asked my husband, well, what do you think he meant by that? He said, well, maybe he saw their nervous systems, right? Because our body's nervous systems look like trees, right? In a way, we are trees, right? But he didn't see them clearly. And I love that he was honest enough to tell him that, right? He didn't say, oh yes, Jesus, master of the universe, you touched me, so definitely I'm better now. No, he was like, I don't know. I mean, I want to just be honest with you, Jesus. I see men, but I see them walking as trees. Sometimes we need to be really honest with Jesus and the people that God sends in our lives to help us, right? When it comes to finances, I mean, you know, you don't know what you don't know. So if you are exposed to an opportunity to grow, only you can decide, you know what? I have some learning to do. I have some things that I need to understand better. I have some improvement that I need to implement. You understand what I'm saying? And you are the only person that can do that for you. To be honest with yourself, to be honest with your father, to be honest with Jesus about what it is that you really, really need. Let him touch you again. It's okay if he touched you before and you didn't get it. And you didn't get the breakthrough. You didn't get the understanding. You didn't get the big turnaround. But if you are honest, then he can touch you again and you can receive the clarity that you need to truly have the turnaround that you need. It's just completely necessary that we are honest about our current situation. It's one of the reasons I made the worksheets. Nobody likes to see the numbers in front of them, but you know what those numbers will give you is clarity. And if you are honest about where you stand, then you have almost empowerment to move forward. If you are a person that will leave certain excuses behind, all right? And then what you're going to do, what we also learned from Mark 8 is that it's up to you. Oh, I want to go back real quick because he was honest. Whenever Jesus did that, he made sure that he did it in private. Your biggest victories many times are going to happen in private. And the fruit of those victories are what other people are going to see, what they're going to be attracted to. But a lot of what you need is going to be, it's not a group project. It's not something you need to document on your Instagram. You understand? Because there's not everybody who likes your post likes your post. You understand? You don't need all of that attention while you're getting the healing you need. You know, we live in a society where we want things to be public, but I think as I get older, the more I just really appreciate the luxury of privacy. Privacy is not something that people who are broke get. I don't know if you know that or not, but broke people do not get a lot of privacy. Their business is usually out there. Think about people who live on the street. Is there such thing as privacy for them? No. But if you have been blessed to be able to grow in private, then honor that. Okay. So lastly, we learned that it's up to you. Jesus expected the disciples to have the bread that he left for them. He expected them to not to be distracted whenever the Pharisees came up against them. He really wants people who call themselves disciples to be accountable for the things that they do. He tells us that he really wants us to be profitable in this lifetime. And, I think that we can do that with the right tools. And it starts with our mindset. It starts with believing that it's possible for us, right? So I was looking everywhere, and there are so many different resources online for financial literacy that it truly is up to you. But I did find some gold here. This U.S. Office of the Comptroller of Currency has a financial literacy resource library. I have the link for you right there, and I will also link it in the description. And I want you to go there and see what's up. Now, I want to leave you with this verse from 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 11 through 12. And it says, and make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business and work with your hands, just as we told you, so that your daily life may win the respect of outsiders, and so that you will not be dependent on anyone. Okay, this is the charge. I have come to the point where I realize God's standard is not changing. It's just not. The world is changing. People are changing. God's standard is not changing. And it is simply up to me to rise to the occasion or not. This is the standard that he is setting for us. I pray that as we continue to grow and to develop into the unique beings that God has made us to be, that we would use his standard for our life, and that it's okay to be honest about where we currently fit on that standard, but that we will have the confidence in knowing that our loving Father is going to guide us along the way as we rise to the occasion. All right, the way the caterpillar rises to the occasion to become a butterfly, it has to go through a process. It comes out better than before. That can happen, that metamorphosis can happen in several different areas of your life. It can happen in your physical, your spiritual, your mental, your financial. It is possible for you, and I pray that the grace to overcome and to reach your goals and to reach victory would be yours in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, God bless you guys, and I will see you next time. Now, if you like what you heard here today, let's go ahead and make this relationship official. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next week.